Hello everyone and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's Day 3 recap here at the 2017 PDGA World Championships in Appling, Georgia. I'm your host, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V. And Johnny, looks like we got some sweet action going on here today, and we're going to have some great highlights for you tonight as well. And some other things.
Just close it.
Wow, we're just trying to make the live studio audience bigger.
Yeah, we're adding ourselves to the live studio audience. That's great. What did you ask me?
I said we've got some sweet action for you guys.
We do have sweet action. We've got a lot of highlights. We've got some rules definitions and clarifications. We have results. We may or may not, I'm not positive, we might have Joe Chargaloff on tonight.
What? An exclusive interview with our new PDGA Executive Director?
Yeah, him.
Only here on SmashBoxx. First and foremost, we want to thank Dalton. He was one of our great editors today that put together a montage of pieces for us. Thank you so much. We will have...
He's my favorite PDGA guy right now.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah, no, yeah, and the only one in the room. So, but no, thank you so much. I was roaming around. I got some various shots from around the course today. You followed the women for the majority of the front nine. That's the leader card of pro women. You followed them for basically the front nine. You got some highlights. Paige Pierce was putting on a show, as we know. I followed for the back few holes of that same round. Central Coast was out there. They were following around. They had the entire lead card action, and then they graciously shared that footage with us. Again, Dalton put some of those shots together, so those are going to be mixed in as well. So huge thank you to Central Coast for the help and the collaboration here this week, so that we'd have more footage for you guys to see.
Oh, for sure. And just to be totally clear, tomorrow Central Coast will be on the second card, the chase card, consisting, I know, of Paul Macbeth. Let me pull up exactly who's on that chase card so everybody knows who is going to be playing on that card. It's Paul
Spoiler
Macbeth,
alert.
Chris Dickerson, Devin Owens, and Nathan Doss.
All right, Nate Doss had a phenomenal round today. We'll get into some of the scores and details a little bit later, but I'll bust it out. I know he had a 10 under par that round. Came in firing. I was looking at the scores again. I was going to kind of roam around. I'm like, oh, Doss seems to be shooting well. Let me go see if I can catch up with him on like the 29th card or wherever I'm just kidding. Wherever he was. I was going to go catch up with him. And then he had a little rough patch for a hole or two, and he jokingly said, he's like, T, I think you might be my bad luck charm. I'm like, fine. I'll back off for a few holes.
We have a tendency to do that to people at times.
We ice them.
We do. We ice them. They get nervous around us.
Understandably.
Completely understandably.
So we do have some footage from that. Also, Nate Doss was involved with a rules infraction. I put a teaser out there today. Nate Doss and his card mate Josh Child. Some major drama that wasn't drama, but we break it all down for you. When it's all said and done, I think more than anything, it was a great learning opportunity for you at home. These guys handled it like the professionals that they are, but more importantly, it's a great learning tool for you at home. So we break down that footage. I'll recap it and talk about it. Nate talks about it for us, so you'll be able to see that. And I know Lance Brown is on the board. Lance, you're our other special featured guest tonight without knowing it. Lance also had a rules... I don't even want to call it a situation.
It's a clarification.
It's a clarification. That's a good way to put it. And Lance was the unlucky recipient, we'll say, of a particular rule that played out in, we'll say, in his favor ultimately today. You're going to see that special clip a little bit later on. I think we see Austin Turner, who aced yesterday. Today he may have something in store for us. We'll have to take a look at that too.
We got lots of stuff.
We do. We have a lot of stuff. Again, thank you to Central Coast and thank you to Dalton. Those were the two biggest entities that helped provide so much of the footage that we had today. Johnny V and I both got a little bit of action and did a little bit of editing, but certainly more hands on deck were helpful today. So hope you guys enjoy everything that we have out there. Joseph Burns, you said you have a shot that made exclusive footage. Yeah, we have a few shots because, again, with us roaming, we got more than what was just found on the lead card and on the chase card, but we'll be able to mix some of that action in as well, thanks to, again, Central Coast. So
Should we start right out with some results? Let's get in.
Let's move over to the women's side of things and start with them. They teed off later today. I'm not sure if we have a clarification as to their tee times tomorrow.
They are teeing off in the morning.
Okay.
The lead card for the FPO division will be teeing off at 9:40 a.m.
Okay, and now we're heading back over to the
Fort Gordon
course. So make sure you get over there and check it out. We've dialed up the heat just a little bit, and maybe the humidity as well, but head back over to the Fort Gordon course. You'll be able to watch it live. Anyone that we've spoken to has said they had no problems getting in there. I know there was a lot of questions about spectators and challenges about getting onto the base. I have yet to hear a story of someone truly having a challenge getting onto the base. It's worked out really well. Thank you to Swami. Thank you to Zach and the rest of the PDGA staff and crew. Again, a lot of hubbub and a lot of talk on the internets, all really over nothing.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think if you're within 2 hours of this place right now, you should really get out there tomorrow. Get there early. If you're there to see a specific card, be there at least an hour earlier than that card, just in case, because we don't know the type of turnout or the type of lines that there could be to get in here. So go ahead. I'm looking right now at tomorrow's forecast for Saturday, and it looks like light rain all afternoon, about a 25% chance in the afternoon. So we might get sprinkled on, we might get a little rain, but to be honest, with this kind of heat, that might be pleasurable.
It could be, and we spoke with Ricky actually just before coming onto the show. We saw him over at the same hotel we were at. He was relaxing and enjoying a little bit of pool time with him and the rest of the family. And I said to him, "Are you going to do anything differently tomorrow? You know, whether it's raining or not?" And he's like, "Oh, I got my raincoat." You know, made the joke about raincoat Ricky. And he says he's not going to change things up too much. So whether, regardless of the weather, I think we're going to see the same game plan out of Ricky. He says he wants to shoot well. He says he's going to, go for the shots that he needs to.
He specifically said high percentage shots.
High percentage.
He's going to go for the high percentage shots. So
he's going to putt everything?
Yeah, he could. He probably could. And ultimately, I bet we're going to. Let's talk about the women first, then we'll talk about Ricky then. So what we're seeing is right now, Paige Pierce in the lead by 6 strokes. It was, I believe she was in the lead by 8 strokes at one point. She gave away a few at the end.
She may have been up by 10 or 11 even at one time today. I'm almost positive of that. We have a staff of one doing fact checking for us, but I believe she may have been up by 10 or even 11 at one point.
I never saw it.
Somebody out there do some math.
Definitely 10 at one point.
Okay, so we're hearing at least 10 at one point. But so she's right now got a 6-stroke lead. We told you yesterday, don't sleep on the women's division because it is a battle. It's going to continue to be a battle, and especially out at Fort Gordon. For all you've probably all seen the CCDG footage from Fort Gordon from 2 days ago. I think it would have been released. Yesterday it would have been released, probably. Anyway, days are all running together. And you can tell that it's a tight course. There's a lot of trees to hit. You can give up 2 to 3 strokes on any given hole with just a few inches off on your line. So this is not over, and as much as it pains me to say it, we have seen Paige give up strokes at the ends of tournaments and rounds the past couple months. Now, she's also gone out and dominated a few tournaments and really put her foot down, so it'll be curious to see what Paige we get tomorrow.
Well, she did not... I don't think she ended it quite as well as she could have today. It seemed like the air was let out of the entire group. Val kind of finished strong. Again, we know that everyone struggled a little bit on hole 18, but on 16 and 17, I watched Val take birdies. On 16, she threw in a putt from 40 to 50 feet. On 17, her and Paige actually played that almost perfectly. They took birdies there, and then they struggled on 18. Val also had a huge throw-in on hole number 15, but when I looked at the scores, because I was kind of arriving late, she had a throw-in there, but that was actually just for a par. Meanwhile, Paige had taken a birdie 3 on that, which is very impressive. Yeah, it's very impressive. I was going to say that is a one with a slightly shorter tee. Doesn't matter. Very, very impressive. Actually, I don't think 15 has a shorter tee now that I think about it. So, so Paige did actually finish. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I got to watch Paige the front 9. You happened to follow her some of the back 9, just the way things worked with editing and stuff. So Paige started out, and it wasn't pretty. Like, it kind of made me nervous because I watched her walk up to a putt and just miss a putt that she should hit. Hole 1, she took a bogey. Thankfully, she then followed it up with a birdie.
Okay.
So, do we want to look at some of the Paige footage from the front 9?
We can certainly do that.
Or should we get through some of the results?
Let's go through a few more of the women's scores here, and then we'll be able to show you a little recap of what we saw from Paige's round specifically, some of the footage that you had. What else are we seeing on the women's scores there, Johnny?
Okay, so after Paige and Val, so Paige is at 7 under, Val is at 1 under. So as we said, Paige has a 6-stroke lead. It's after that, there's another big jump, and it goes to Katrina Allen. She's at 7 over par right now. That's an 8-stroke difference from Val. So between Kat and Paige, the leader, that's 14 strokes. I don't think we're going to see Kat be able to make up anything. I think this is right now a 2-woman race between Paige and Val. But we also saw Lisa Ficus. She played okay. She shot a 75, and then when she was disappointed with her round, she had a rough end of the round. She played pretty well when I was watching her at the front 9, but my understanding is you had seen her, and she kind of hacked away through the course for the last couple holes.
Yeah, again, it felt like the air was let out of the group a little bit. It was... I know that Sarah Holcomb was struggling, and she didn't seem like she was having a whole lot of fun with it as she was doing it, understandably. We were talking at more than a 4-hour round. I think it was maybe being closer to a 4.5-hour round.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought it was, they teed off at 1:20, I believe, because it was pushed back a little bit.
Okay.
And I don't believe they got done. Yeah, I think
it was after 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was after 6, because I remember looking at my watch at 6:07 as they were moving,
it was just shy
toward
of
hole 18.
It was just shy of 5 hours for them.
So close to a 5-hour round
and
out here.
It's not just, it's the heat, it's the humidity, it's the length of the course, the hills they're climbing, and the end of this course doesn't let up. It's not
at
like,
all.
It's not like you're going to end with a couple par 3s and maybe a par 4. You're ending with par 4s and par 5s. So these women, after this long, grueling day with backups, are now fighting these last few holes, and I can understand just wanting to be done, honestly, because after 9 holes, I wanted to be done. And I was just walking along with a camera.
Yeah, you had it relatively easy.
Comparatively to them, yeah.
It was great to see, I think, well, actually, it was just 2 of them. I was kind of surprised even to see it, though. 2 of the women on the lead card had caddies. I believe Sarah Holcomb was pulling her cart, her ridge roller. I saw Lisa Ficus had a caddy, and I saw Paige had a caddy. It was our 2010 world champion, Eric McCabe. And then Val did not have a caddy. Nate was done with his round. Nate was relaxing, probably watching the scores from the van or from a friend's house. And Val was out there pushing through. So very long, very grueling. And like you said, this looks to be a 2-woman race at this point, unless something crazy happens tomorrow. It looks like it's really coming down to our reigning champion and then our odd champion. And by what we mean by that,
she's kind of odd. She's strange.
No, she likes to win worlds on odd-numbered years.
Yes.
So.
So it's a 3-time world champion versus a 4-time world champion.
Sounds like a good battle. So as of this point, though, Paige has led wire to wire.
Yes.
Throughout this tournament. So she's on pace. We'll see if she can keep it together tomorrow and see if she can reclaim that title.
You know, she came out to Fort Gordon. She shot a 60 on the first round, besting the field by 3 strokes. So this is, I'm going to go on a limb and say this is hers to lose right now, unless Val puts up just a phenomenal round or Paige gives it away. So I don't know. But looking at the second card, we have Elaine King, the ageless wonder, shooting a 70. So she was 2 strokes off of, was it 2 strokes off of Paige and Val? And then I don't believe there was anyone within 2 strokes of her even. So those Elaine King still getting it done in the open field when she could be. I don't know if she's going to go play Masters this year in the Masters World Championship. I haven't heard anything, and I'm afraid to ask her.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she's going to be going.
She traditionally doesn't play Masters.
Correct. She finds that there's larger fields, and that she's obviously still very competitive in the open field for women. So that's where she more frequently finds herself. And again, it's partial field size and competitiveness, I believe. And I'm not sure if she's actually planning on attending the Pro Masters Worlds taking place up in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, Grand Rapids, Michigan, where is she from Michigan? Or
No,
she
originally
lived up
Canada.
There? Originally Canada. Okay, I know. I thought she lived up in northern portion of the United States, but
Northern
maybe it was
U.S., aka Southern Canada.
Southern Canada. And following Elaine King, we have Sarah Hokum. Sarah's a one-time world champion.
2012.
2012. Sarah had, like you're saying, a rough round when I was watching her. It actually wasn't too bad. She had a couple bad lies, but she hit a couple big putts as well, so that was kind of nice. And following up Sarah Hokum is Ragna Lewis, Ragna Big D, depending on you know which name.
Okay.
Oh, Elaine King is. Elaine King is registered for the Masters World, so she's got to be the odds-on favorite in that division. All right, so Ragna taking 7th right now at 211, so she is at 11 over par, only 1 behind Sarah, 2 behind Elaine. It's really from 3rd to about 11th. It's pretty close. It's all within 4 or 5 strokes. After Ragna is Nicole Bradley, then Melody Weibel, Hannah Leatherman, and Katka.
Okay. Well, and speaking to Nicole Bradley, as we were walking out of the International Disc Golf Center a little earlier today, I saw that she was having the hottest round out of all the women.
She was.
And I know she was under par at one point, and she seemed to be out there just killing it. And so I walked out, and I had said to her, you know, good round out there. And she said, I played 14 of the best holes of my life out there today. Unfortunately, this is an 18-hole course, but she said, I played 14 of the best holes of golf I've ever played, and then I think she said she took an 8 at one point. Ooh. But congrats to her for putting up still what looks to be a pretty solid round, and hopefully she can go out there and get it done tomorrow. So good to see. Lots of shakeup. I think that's one of the biggest stories of the week. Yes, we've seen Paige on top. However, the rest of the division, and Val's been right there, you know, lingering around that second
and third.
Yeah, second and third. The rest of the division has been very dynamic. Elaine King, I think it's safe to say, she shot the 68 to open, then comes back out here today, shoots a 70. Seems like those two scores treated her better here than how she performed over at the Fort Gordon course.
Well, I'm sure she's going to go out to Fort Gordon with either she's going to go out there hating it or she's going to go out there with some revenge in her mind, because she had I believe I heard her say, arguably one of her least favorite rounds that she's had, and understandably by looking at the score, 71 when a lot of the other women are shooting in the mid to low 60s.
Well, our consistency awards would have to go right now to Valerie and Ragna. Val shot a 68 here both rounds when she played at the here at the IDGC, and Ragna shot 72 both rounds. So seems like they're certainly consistent out here. We'll see what they do tomorrow. So I think we can get to it. Paige Pierce went out today. As you said, Johnny, you were able to follow some of her round as she opened up on the front 9 at the Jackson course. You put together a few shots. Some of her best or worst, or all combined? A little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. I pretty much left out her par shots, and I'm showing most of everything else. So.
All right, let's see it. Are you going to walk us through what you saw with Paige Pierce?
Yeah, I'll walk you through a little bit. Let me just make sure everything is set properly.
All the audios and the correct things are going to show up at the right times.
Hopefully. We'll cross our fingers. We'll cross our fingers.
All right, let us know.
All right, here we go. So what we have is this is Paige on hole 1, and like I said earlier, she had a rough go of it. You could see her kind of trying to swipe the disc to the right. She wanted to be more right than what she ended up going. So the second shot on hole 1, you got to beat those trees you see out there. She ends up going she was not too happy with that. Hits the trees, ends up short. That was a mid-range. She was about 300 feet out, and she talked to EMAC and said, what disc should I throw? And he pulled out the mid-range for her. And I was thinking, like, you're not going to throw mid-range, and she crushed it. So she ends up having to throw a forehand approach, and she was actually pretty happy with the result, but then just flat out misses. It wasn't left, it wasn't right. She just missed left, bounced off the cage, and ended up taking her bogey,
to
open the round. And at this point, I'm thinking, oh my God. I hope I'm not going to witness like a Paige meltdown. But then I thought, yeah, you know what? First hole, anything can happen.
Cleans it up, and she's ready to move on. I noticed it took her a few holes to get her first par. Yep. And as we move over here, we're looking at hole 2, and that's for birdie, huh?
Yep, she put herself only, like I said, only about 20 feet out for a birdie. This is actually, I grabbed this shot just so people could see. This is a little slow-mo of Paige straight from the side. Watch the power and the reach back that she has.
Full extension as she's pulling back.
Yeah, right through the, I think they call it the power pocket. This is why Paige is beating the field, because she has the form and the distance that the other women just don't have. And these courses require actually a lot of distance. Now this is on hole 3. This is Paige for birdie. She's only just about 20 feet out. I've kind of chalked this up as a good birdie for her, but she just airballs it. Flat out airballs it straight to the left, leaves herself another, even longer, about 25 to 30 footer. And I've seen Paige miss a lot of putts, but she almost always hits the comeback. So this is now for par. She doinks it right off the front. So now she just took herself, she went from birdie to bogey in 2 shots. She was not happy, clearly.
Do you feel like there might have been anything a distraction?
There was no distraction. We were
moist hand, anything?
There was nothing. I just think it was just maybe a little bit of lapse in brain. This is hole 4. This is a big hyzer. It's basically a par 4. It's a 2-shot. She ends up here after having a decent drive. She throws a standstill shot. It had to be about another 300-foot shot. Puts herself 15 feet away for an easy birdie. This is her and EMAC actually checking scores. They were looking and talking about the men's scores. The joke was that she's gone through a caddy each round. First round it was a gentleman I think who volunteered, I forget. Second round it was her father.
Okay.
And then third round now, and probably fourth round is going to be EMAC. So we were making jokes that she was burning through caddies like they were left and right. That she's rough to caddy for.
Yeah.
But clearly not. So hole 5 is a big anhyzer shot. She throws, I believe it was I think it was a mid-range, and just wants it to bend over a little bit, turn to the right. So she was pretty happy with that. She ends up getting the easy birdie on that hole. Now we jumped to hole 9, pretty much 6 through 8 were really boring. Just put herself in the middle. This is a 399-foot shot. This finishes up the front 9. I stood up on the bench to get this shot. It goes 399 feet and fades slightly off to the right. She pulled out her truth. I think it was like a moonshine truth or something along those lines. She crushed it. I talked to a couple of the men, Drew Gibson and Nico, and they looked at me, and Nico said, I didn't get within 70 feet of that thing. Puts herself, actually, if you don't know this hole, but she's actually a little deep.
Wow.
She's up on the hill, drains the putt in front of the entire DD crew who happened to be waiting at the turn. So it was, the front 9 was really something fun to watch for her.
Very impressive. Well, I know that was, from what I heard from Barry Schultz the other day, I think that was a slight adjustment that was made specifically on that hole. Hole 9 used to play a little bit shorter. I don't know if it was 60 or 70 feet shorter. So if you've been here before and that looked a little bit new to you, that would be why. It was pushed back, challenged a little bit more. I know Zach, the TD, had some conversations about the logic to that in terms of the challenge. It was pushed back further, and then so it's great to hear that some of the men that we're talking, and some of the furthest throwing men in Drew Gibson and Nico, who say they didn't get anywhere near the pin, and she's just piping that shot with a mid-range.
With a mid-range. Like I said, it slightly goes downhill, but I wouldn't say it would drop more than 8 to 10 feet downhill. Sure. And then the basket is actually up on a mound, so it's kind of a unique shot. And watching her just throw the most perfect mid-range shot. 399, Robert McCall and I looked at each other, and he's like, it must be nice to be able to throw 399 mid-range. He's like, I would have probably pulled out a trespass. And I think, maybe I said I would have probably pulled out a trespass or like a leopard, something that's going to get up and flip a sharp-edge driver.
Yeah.
And not Paige.
Not Paige.
She's very confident with her mid-range discs right now.
Well, understandably so, as she throws them well. Awesome to see. Again, we're going to have a little bit more of that leader card footage is going to be spliced into the montage that Dalton had put together. So you're going to see some of that a little bit later on in the show as they finished out their round. Again, their 5-hour round as they're out there today. So one thing that's unique, a conversation that we had earlier today is, of course, this is a 4-round tournament. We've kind of beat that conversation to death. But what that also means, though, is there's not a cut of any kind. No. So we're seeing all of the players at obviously every score level and playing level, all are included. And one thing that we've seen at some other tournaments is when there is 3 or 4 or 5 rounds or whatever the case might be, you get to a certain amount of rounds and then it kind of trims up or has a cut.
Sure.
And it may reduce whether it's 50% of the field or 40% of the field or takes away some percentage of the field. That helps kind of speed up the final day. That also maybe gives the people that feel like they've thrown enough shots, gives them, the day off, so to speak. But out here tomorrow, everybody's going to be grinding. Everybody's going to be playing it all the way through. And we're looking forward to another exciting but probably long day out at Fort Gordon.
I'm not looking forward to it. I don't know.
Come on.
I don't know what anyone else says. No, it's going to be a lot of fun to sit and watch the women and the men. I mean, I said it earlier today. I think the men's field is decided. I think
Johnny's calling it.
I'm calling it. I'm calling it Ricky. He's got the lead. I don't see him giving that up right now. It would be very difficult for anyone to catch him. He would really have to miss some holes or have a meltdown. And when we talked to him today, he didn't seem
He's
like
not planning on melting down. He was smiling. I'm going to tell you,
he was shirtless too. So
and smiling.
He was having fun at the pool. There was nothing. He was anything. So I think the men's field's decided, but I do think we still have quite a battle in the women's field, and I'm looking forward to watching the women more than watching the MPO. So I think there's a better battle.
So we're excited to see that. It's going to be going off a little earlier. Again, they have, I think it was Sarah Holcomb that informed me last night that there's somewhere around 8, 9, or 10 shorter tees at Fort Gordon.
Yes.
I don't know if we have an official count, but there's a considerable amount of the tees are shorter out there. So we're going to see a little bit quicker round for them as things move on tomorrow. And also I think it'll challenge their skill sets a little bit more accurately as they're out there competing for that final round. Now, what I think is interesting is literally moments before we went live, we noticed there was a post on Instagram, which then fed to Facebook, from our 4-time men's world champion in Paul McBeth. And Paul, is this a submission of sorts? Is he tapping out? I'm going to paraphrase here. He says, the worlds are almost over, and the title looks pretty far out of reach. I'll be on second card. I'm 11 back of first place and 3 back of second. He'll play his heart out, and thanks for supporting us. Come out to Fort Gordon, say hi. And then he says, we all at least have one thing in common, and that's being fans of disc golf. So,
yeah, I mean,
is he tapping out?
I think he's submitting. Yeah, here's the only way I see Paul coming and back and winning. Or not winning, or whatever. And that's, he has to shoot a 16. He has to shoot 16 under par, and Ricky has to clearly shoot a 5. I don't see Ricky shooting a 5, but it wouldn't, if he came off the course with a 5, I wouldn't be totally shocked. I would be shocked if Paul came off with a 16, but that's the only way that Paul is going to catch. And I think the problem is if Ricky ends up shooting a 5, I think you're going to see some of those other people catch him before Paul does. So,
sure.
Yes, I think this is Paul's not so subtle way of saying, guess what, guys? I'm not going to win. Come up, say hi, whatever. I think this is more Paul doing some fan service and saying, hey, great event.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And someone had also had just posted on the board that it seemed positive. I'm not saying it's anything but positive, for sure. I think it's great, and I think it's gracious. It just, to me, is a little bit of saying, hey, I think I've accepted that I'm not in the position to even really make a realistic run at it. There's just, Ricky's clearly playing at a high level right now. He's the highest level.
He's the best.
Ricky's playing at the highest level right now, and he's run out of holes, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's how I read it. Again, I think it was very sincere and gracious of him. But hopefully there's going to be still a good crowd out there. We know people are still going to be following. There's been a lot of discussion this week about how sometimes the second card, and this happened more so yesterday, but and a little bit today, the second card seemed to have a larger following than even the first card, possibly because of the names that were on the card.
Yeah.
And well, not possibly, for sure, because of the names that were on the card and the fans of those individual players. So it's been kind of funny to see this massive gallery. Today, I guess it was probably a little bit more even when you were out there. But today, as we mentioned earlier, it was a Latitude 64 exclusive player card on the first card. And on the second card, who did we see on the second card? Now it's reshuffled, but we had
Simon,
McBeth,
Eagle,
Adam Hamies, and Eagle. Yeah. So it was essentially an all Innova-ish card, Innova and Discmania, on the second card. So it's kind of funny to see how that shook out. That doesn't mean anything to me personally in terms of the sponsors action. It's just interesting. All Latitude and then all Innova/Discmania.
Hey, should we start talking about some of the men's results right away, seeing as how we're getting into that?
We certainly can.
Let's look at some of the men's scores. Let me bring them up here real quick. You can see that obviously Ricky, as we said, Ricky's leading the field pretty handily. He's got 8 strokes. 8 strokes over Adam. And a lot of people probably don't know Adam. Adam is a local kid from Minocqua, Wisconsin. Minocqua, Wisconsin, which is way up north. We're from the southern half of southern half of Wisconsin. And he's just been playing very well all year in Wisconsin. And now he's kind of showing the nation what he can do. So I'll be interested to see how he reacts tomorrow to a final day Pro Worlds lead card, where all the eyeballs are going to be on him, all the pressure is going to be on him, because he can't catch Ricky. He can. He won't catch Ricky.
Okay, you're calling it.
I'm calling it. He won't catch Ricky, but he still has to fight off Simon, who's only a stroke behind him, Johnny McRae, who's only a stroke behind him, and maybe even Paul McBeth, who's just 3 strokes behind him.
Yeah, if that entire second card.
If someone, like we'll say like a Paul, flips that McBeast switch, he could easily take second place. Johnny McRae, unfortunately, we've seen in the past, he doesn't love galleries. And I think that might have been some of his downfall today. Johnny is, I think I said it yesterday, Johnny was in heaven when he was on the lead card yesterday, and he had almost no gallery because everyone followed the second card. Today, the lead card had more gallery. Still not, I don't think, quite as much as the second card.
No.
But they had way more gallery, and you could see it in Johnny's play. You could see it in his body language. There were a few times he stepped up to some putts and had to back off because there might have been a gallery member moving, in the distant background or something like that. And Johnny just doesn't handle that the way some of our other players do.
The distractions are more likely to happen, and they do happen. You have galleries that, as you said, are in the background, but people are moving, and sometimes it can even be, in this case, it can be the second card gallery could be moving that could then distract the first card. There's a lot of different things that can take place. So just to clarify, it's Ham-Miss, as in H-A-M-M-I-S-S, so it's Ham-Miss. He's, I believe he is in fact 18, and again, he's from 18. Northern Wisconsin. I reference, we talk about it all the time. We say Minocqua, or he says Minocqua, that's of course where he's from. Minocqua is also just minutes away from one of our favorite places on the planet in Sandy Point Resort and Disc Golf Ranch. So if you've ever heard us reference that place, there's your free plug, Mike Cousins. But Cousins. Sandy Point Resort and Disc Golf Ranch is just down the road from there. Also, if any of you are familiar or referenced High Bridge Hills, in even further northern Wisconsin, it's about 75 miles-ish from that area. So Worlds was held in 2007.
Okay, that was the 2007 Worlds that was in.
So that's where all of this kind of ties together in terms of if you want to place where he is from, and clearly putting on a very, very good show. He's come up just short at some other big events like Am Worlds, where he's taken second
twice, I think.
And he's also at the US IDGC, where he's fallen just short of winning that.
Correct. He's a well-worn character in the second place. So
yes. Well,
he's just always not quite the bridesmaid that Coling is, but always the bridesmaid.
Correct. Well, and right now, I think it's safe to say, of course, in anyone's dream world, you'd love to hunt down Ricky Wysocki, but barring a meltdown by Wysocki, right now, Adam would just love to hold on to that second place.
For sure, because he's not even, if I'm correct, he's not even a star team player on Innova's team. He's looking to make his name and maybe get himself bumped up and get one of those signature Tour Series discs. I'm just saying, if he plays,
his parents would have to sign off on that.
No, he's 18 now. He's 18 now. He can make his own decisions.
I know.
He's a big boy. So, but no, he's a young up and comer. We've seen him for years, and I think he's going to continue to play well. And hopefully he can get over that second place hump one of these days.
Well, very cool to see. Labor Day weekend is in fact, and he won Sandy Point Resort, the Northwoods Open last year when it was held up there. So again, ties to that area, and huge shout out to Sandy Point Resort, sandypt.com if you want to check it out. So that's what you're seeing on the men's side. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing on some of those other cards. Again, not common to see Paul McBeth not on a lead card as you go into the final day of Worlds.
He hasn't been on a lead card, so to speak, all weekend.
Does he even want to win, bro?
Apparently, if you follow Hannah on Twitter, she had said someone texted Paul and asked, "Do you even want to win?"
Yeah, wow.
Probably one of the rudest things I've heard all weekend.
Yes, that is, I think, what do they say, savage?
Yeah,
that would be one of those.
That's pretty savage. So, yeah, so Paul McBeth on the top of the second card with a -22, tied with Chris Dickerson, the Prodigy player, who we've seen shoot well pretty much all weekend. Followed up by Devin Owens, the lefty, who unfortunately had a rough round today, 64, which was below. He tied Johnny McRae, but that's not saying too much when the rest of the guys are shooting in the high 50s or the low 60s. So 64 was a disappointment to Devin. And the hot shooting way up the tournament was the person you spoke of earlier, and that was Nate Doss.
Yeah, so today, just to put this all in perspective, the hottest score of the day was, in fact, by our leader, Ricky Wysocki at 55. Then Adam Hammis came in with a 58, which, of course, jumped him all the way up into second place. And then, again, moving up, I gave him a hard time earlier, but moving up was Nate Doss. He shot a 58 as well. So those were the three hottest scores of the day, the 55 and then the pair of 58s out there. So very, very impressive shooting by all of those guys. And then we see, a couple 69s, so on and so forth. It's interesting to see that Wysocki's 55, as of right now, unofficially is rated a 1066 round. I'm not a ratings guru. I think they are the best thing we've got because I'm not smart enough to do any other math that proves otherwise. Everybody can have their opinion of them. The one generic statement I'll make, and if I say his name 3 times, Chuck Kennedy will probably show up, but the one statement I'll make is I feel like that seems low, and I don't know why, other than just a gut feeling.
My understanding from what someone had said was that because this course has so many par 5s and par 4s, is that's why the ratings, it's the strokes, then the average is going to be lower, or something like along those lines. That the par is so big that it's hard to get a higher rating, and it's crazy because Ricky had what, 5? He shot a 13, so 13. So he had 5 pars. And
well, you could have went about that other ways, but yeah.
Correct. Well, we know he didn't have any bogeys, so he had 5 pars out on this course. And I'm sure Chuck will show up and say something, but to me, that feels more like a 1080 round. Like that's one of those gut things you have. You're like, oh my God, that's got to be higher. Just like Johnny McRae, who shot a 56 the first round, which is 1 stroke worse. His was also a 1066. So you can see that those 1 strokes, they're worth less points than when you have a birdie fest of a course.
Correct. Well, and Patrick,
or a 2 fest. We'll
Patrick out on the board says exactly that. Average stroke separation is less on longer courses, and I get that conceptually. Just again, as a gut feeling, when I think about him besting the entire field of the best players on the planet, and he bests them all by 3 or more, it feels like 1066 just seems a little low. And there is absolutely zero science behind that other than my large tummy feeling.
Mine's getting bigger too, my tummy.
It is.
So, hey, watch it. And I have the same feeling. And I think if you've played a lot of golf, when you walk off a course, you have a general feeling of how your round went, and you can base that what you think the rating is. I'm pretty good at, when I walk off a course, knowing around within about 5 to 10 points of what my rating is. Like, did I play well for me? I know I'm normally like a 9. When I was playing a lot, a 950 rated golfer. If it felt like great, I was like, oh, that's probably a 980, 990 rated round. If it kind of felt it was probably right around my rating. And
wow.
And seeing that course out there, walking it, looking at the shots that I would have taken, it feels low.
Well, I would be remiss if I did not mention, I saw him only for a hole or 2. He said hi. We exchanged pleasantries. I didn't realize it. Bobby Music, Bobby Love, Happy birthday, buddy. Shot yourself at 61 today. I know you were scoring well. I was trying to run over and get some of your footage. But happy birthday, more so. I did not realize it, so I'm here. And Dustin Skorpinski, I missed you last night, buddy. We love you. We know you're a great friend of the show and Smashy. Yeah. Also, as a quick side note, since I'm on the happy birthday train, interestingly enough, this week, as the Worlds is going on, it is also the 1-year birthday or anniversary of the Disc Golf Pro Tour kicking off last year. When we were at Vibram last year. So thought that was very cool. Steve Dodge doing great things. Appreciate that.
And if we're doing that, I'm going to say happy 10-year anniversary. Yes. Happy 10-year anniversary to my wife tonight. I'm sorry, I'm like 2,500 miles, 2,000 miles away from you. So we'll go that. We share an anniversary with the Pro Tour. So hey, you can't argue that.
There you go. So yes, happy birthday to Johnny and to Sarah, or whatever it is. To Sarah and to Johnny, 10 years. So someone who's not happy would be one of the challenges that was had out there. But I told you we can turn this into a learning curve. There was a great optional rule that was applied today. And that was at the expense, we'll say, of Lance Brown, Team Prodigy member, super great guy, great smashy, friend of the show. But we've got a little action here from Lance Brown that we're going to show you. He had thrown a shot on hole number 11. Beautiful shot. I think it was a forehand off the tee. Put himself in a great position for a birdie.
Yeah, yes, he was.
He was, but Johnny, I think we're going to show otherwise. So we're going to show the clip in its entirety. When it's done, we'll come back. We'll be silent as it plays through, so you may or may not be able to hear him and Philo exchange a word or two. Then we'll come back and we'll kind of explain what is going on. All right, Lance Brown, he's on the board. He says, oh no. Oh yes, Lance. Thanks for helping us out.
Thanks, Lance. So it looks like Lance kind of hit off the basket and rolled down the hill.
Yes, and unfortunately for him, down that hill far enough is an OB string, as in out of bounds. So he's taking a look at it. He's going to clarify, and he in fact finds himself, yep, that's out of bounds. See a couple other players, Peter McBride and otherwise, tapping out. And as Lance moves back up the hill, he's picked up his mini, and he basically says, okay, well, is there a spot here that you guys can give me as to where I was? And there's the rule that applies. That is your PDGA rule number 804.04D1, which states you can rethrow from there. He's, of course, assessed the 1 throw penalty. However, rather than going all the way down to where he was last in bounds, Lance played it smart, and he opted to take it from where he had previously thrown from. And that's an option for you. And that couldn't have, unfortunately for Lance, that couldn't have played out as any better of an example of thinking about applying the rules, to your favor in this case. Not that you're ever out to circumvent them or get around them, but you can throw from where you were either last in bounds or from where you previously threw from. So in this case, he had splashed out. He was 10, 12 feet away. He had splashed out. He rolled all the way OB. He likely would have had a hard time making that putt, even if he had a line on it.
Yeah, because
there's a tree and a bush and up a hill and everything else. So rather than going down there and playing it from there, which is what you kind of instinctively do, it was a much better lie, of course, for him to stand where he previously was and throw from there. So he's assessed the 1-stroke penalty, and a good way that I like to apply penalties, and when I'm thinking about strokes or struggling on a hole, my favorite way to do it is count the amount of times you threw and then count your penalties. And I know that's backwards. Some people will say, well, I threw 1 and I'm lying 3 and I'm throwing 4 and I'm. To me, I count the amount of times I threw and then add on your penalty strokes. So
I do the same thing, just only probably because I picked that up from you when I first started playing. If I went OB twice and I put it in 5, then it's 5, then 2 OB, 6, 7. So that's the easiest way for me to do it.
So there you go. That is good. There's a lot of people on the board saying that they didn't necessarily know that, so that is good. Tommy, you asked, did he pick up his marker? He did. And just as if you could hear the audio, which was already low, he basically said to the group, he said, okay, guys, give me a spot. Where was I? And he originally was standing there, and then I think it was Philo said, I think you were about 3 feet back. He stepped back 3 feet. He placed his mini. It looked to be in the, I slowed down the video. He was pretty darn close to within inches of where he was.
Yeah, it looked like he was about 6 inches from where.
Exactly. So, you know, it's a group decision to give him that call as to where it was placed, and then he simply got to re-putt. So, and here's probably the biggest misconception is, no, you picked up his mini. You can't, no, you can. You can simply have the group agree where it last was, and you play it from there. And I think that's probably the big misconception is, well, once you picked up that mini, then you could no longer go do that. And that's not true.
And I know it's hard, especially when you're not the player, but when you are on that card, this is why you need to pay attention closely to your other card mates, whether it's to help them out or to help yourself out and maybe be able to call them on a rules violation or know the rules. Make sure you are aware. Try to be more aware of the situation around you. Don't just be focusing. I know everyone wants to focus on their game, but part of the rules are you need to be paying attention to your competitors.
Yeah, and your card mates for this exact reason, whether it's a placement or whatever. We're also going to have a rules situation that comes up. We're going to talk about that a little later. That involved Josh Childs and Nate Doss. Again, a little bit of a learning opportunity, I think, for everyone that came along. It was unique. It's not necessarily something that happens every single day. And the way that it was handled, I think, was just about perfect for the situation that we were in. It was handled perfectly, so we'll be able to share that with you guys a little bit later as well. And so, yes, the answer is you always have the option. So there's really 2 ways to look at it. There's always an optional rethrow. And so here might be an example that's similar but different. You're standing on top of at the tee of a hole that has a cliff, and it's a 500-foot drop-off. We'll use some extremes for you. It's a 500-foot drop-off behind the basket. You've thrown, you go deep in the basket, it goes all the way down this cliff. It's 500 feet, and to throw back up might take you 2 or 3 or 10 throws. You have the option to take a penalty stroke at that point and simply rethrow from the tee. At any point, you can always throw another shot and just add 1 penalty stroke to it, okay? That, in theory, could be applied here. In this case, he actually went OB, so that's why I stated the specific rule in terms of going OB. The situation is very similar for when you're OB. You can either go to where you were last inbounds, which would have been down by the creek side in this case, or where you last threw from. So those 2 rules are, of course, very similar, but yet slightly different. But really, anytime you throw a horrible shot, or a shot you don't like, or a shot you don't want to go chase down, or whatever the case might be, you can simply say, I'm going to rethrow from where I was, and I'll take the penalty stroke.
Yep. We see it most used for missed putts that roll OB. I think that is the prime use of that rule for our players. But again, like Terry said, you can use it off the tee, you can use it on an approach, basically anywhere you need to.
So a clarification would be, it states in here that says, can I get my disc back? And then another question is it legal to go and pick up the disc you threw and rethrow from that spot? If it's within the 30 seconds, that's not a problem. I'm trying to think if there's a violation called or not, if that's different. But as long as it's within the 30 seconds, that's not a problem. Now, if you threw down a 500-foot cliff, you're probably not able to go and get that and retrieve it and bring it back in time. But as long as it's within the 30 seconds, that's not a problem. Okay?
Awesome. Very good to know.
I just thought it was cool. We're here at the World Championships. And in my head, I'm going to be totally honest, in my head as I watched it unfold, all I was thinking is, Lance, please re-putt from where you were. Don't go down there. Don't go down there. He went down there to check and confirm he's OB as he should. But all I was thinking in my head as a player and a competitor is, please go re-putt from where you just were. That's the logical thing to do here. And he was on top of it. And so the card was ready and there to help out.
And Lance says he will sleep better now. So congratulations.
Lance, my pro tip of the day, aside from that rule, is make the short birdie putt next time. I don't know. That's just that's okay. That's me. All right. So interesting. Thanks, Lance. We're not picking on you. It was great that we were able to use that to, again, hopefully be helpful to everyone else out there that maybe didn't know that rule. I think it was the U.S. women's event last year. We were in Maine. Similar situation. I don't recall if it was Paige Pierce.
It was Paige
Pierce.
You did a whole thing on it.
Yeah, I kind of did a video during one of my video blogs regarding that exact same situation. If it makes sense for you, sometimes it's easier to re-putt. And what I would say to that is, depending on the situation, of course, sometimes even if let's say he had a 12-footer. He missed, and he went OB, to 12 feet the other way. Maybe he likes uphill putt, so he goes from there. I would say, anytime you have that chance, rather than go to a totally new putt,
a new lie that you're not
familiar with, it may be advantageous to simply go from that other spot.
Yep.
So you have to play that out. But anyway, it was a par save. Well, it was a par save putt. 'Twas a 5. Okay, well. All right, well, make your birdie putts other times and stuff. I don't know.
There you go.
All right. Yes, the band last night was loud. Yeah, but I do want to say, to speak to that, Ronald, we want to thank Stillwater Tap Room. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for having us. Matt Flynn, I believe, is the owner's name. He graciously welcomed us there. And we really appreciate being there. As you know, we kind of roam around to give you our shows and our podcasts in various locations. And that was an official World's Gathering, which is why we saw so many of the people and had so many of the guests that we had in there. So that's why it made it logical for us to be there. So thank you to Stillwater.
It only made sense for us to be there.
Exactly. All right. Yeah, the rowdy dart players. They certainly were. All right, what else do we got on tap for us, Johnny?
A couple, let's see here. We want to talk about Austin Turner? Maybe show a quick highlight.
Yeah, sure. We'll show another little snippet. Austin Turner aced yesterday. Let's see what he does today. Austin, I like to say you gotta want it. What happened over there on hole 13 today?
I tried to redeem myself from hole 12. Took a double bogey, so I tried to get those 2 strokes back and came up just short. Hit the cage, tap in 2. So not too sad about that. But
what'd you throw?
Buzz OS.
All right. Best of luck to you in the final day.
Thank you.
All right, well, welcome back. That was, in fact, Austin Turner. As we said yesterday, he carded the ace. Today he was going for it, and then as he had walked off the hole, he tapped out, and he originally approached me. He's like, I was trying for you. I'm like, I was waiting. I mean, come on. So it's a great shot by Austin. If we look down the scores chart, I would have to think 13 would have to be one of the most birdied holes on the course. You can certainly find plenty of trouble. I've seen 3s, 4s, and 5s out there. But 13, if you can lace a straight shot right up the middle, 250-ish feet, you should be rewarded with a birdie, assuming you come in at a good angle. So nice shot by Discraft's own Austin Turner. Seems like he's having a pretty solid week here.
He is. For being kind of the rookie, do you think is he technically going to be a rookie this year? Or
did he not win rookie?
Or was it rookie of the year last year? I forget offhand, but he's tied for 9th right now, so he's technically top 10 at Worlds. This is the first year he's really been on tour, I know that, but he is really he's really come out of the woodwork and shown everybody what he can do this year. So especially at the Pro Tour events where he's been playing very well, but he's also hit the NTs as well.
Yeah, so a bright spot there as Discraft's own Young Gun Austin Turner, doing big things, traveling around with big.
Does he have a nickname? We got to come up with a good nickname for him.
Coling probably has some dumb nickname for him. No. I'm sure Coling has a nickname for him.
We'll have to reach out to Coling.
Well, right now, I think Turner's got a name or two he could be calling Coling as he's taking care of him at the Worlds.
Hold on, let me keep scrolling down to find Coling. Oh, my fingers are getting sore. Still going.
All jokes aside, I saw Coling after he threw a great approach shot. I think we're going to see it in the highlights a little later. He threw a beautiful flexing forehand shot on hole 17. 17 today to get out of trouble. And I think as he came up to talk to a number of players that were waiting on hole 15, he's like, I don't think I've ever had more pars in my life. And so I haven't looked at his scorecard, but I think he said over the last few rounds he's had like, I don't know if he said he's had 30 out of 36 holes, but apparently he's been parring a lot. And when Ricky's shooting a dozen,
yeah, and
you're losing ground.
You're definitely losing ground. Colling is currently in 23rd place. He shot a 62, which is about 1,018 rating. So,
Austin the Burner Turner, that could be one for him. So, Baker's dozen, that could be it as well. All right, so thank you, Austin, for giving us a few moments of your time there, and we wish you the best of luck tomorrow. Austin, one of the more unique things about Austin, as we look at some of our leaders, and you look down the first, okay, I guess it just takes you to get down to, oh, I'm sorry, I was missorted. I apologize. What am I doing here? I'm trying to get to our sort. I'm looking for the first lefty, and you mentioned him earlier, Johnny. No surprise, Devin Owens is our highest placed lefty at the moment. He's sitting in 7th place, and then Austin Turner, sitting on that 3rd card, is sitting in 9th place. And then the next lefty, Zach Melton, sitting in 16th place.
Yeah, Zach had a really good day today, I believe, after having kind of an off day. I'm not looking at the scores, but if I remember correctly, he had an off day on, it was the very first day he kind of had an off day.
He opened with a 66, then he had a 60, and then today came back with a 60 as well. Speaking of off days, we saw that one of our young guns out there today on the 2nd card, Eagle McMahon, seemed to struggle. Was there anything that you saw? I know you were following them a little bit more than I was. Anything that you saw in particular? Was he not hitting lines? Was his putting off? What might have been it?
His putting wasn't off. I didn't see him really have to make a lot of putts from my understanding. I only followed him for a few holes, but it just seemed like his driving was off just a little bit. And you could tell that he was down on himself and down on things in general, because he'd throw a shot that for most humans and mortals looked relatively good, and he would, there was twice I saw him, he just turned around, didn't bother looking at it, walked off the tee pad and was kind of like, I don't really care where that goes. He was just down. There was something in him that I don't think he was having much fun. And I don't know if that was just a golf thing. I don't know if it's a being burnt out thing. We saw him take a week off a couple weeks ago, or a few weeks off. He just really wasn't, his head wasn't in his game today, I don't think. And it showed. I mean, what did he end up shooting today? He shot,
I think it was a 65.
Yeah, 65. So he dropped down the leaderboard quite a bit. And I think just maybe the length and the heat and these long days are maybe just getting to the young guy. Okay,
well, one of the questions that's been kind of roaming around out there and talked about in various capacities, drone previews. And as I've confirmed with it, thanks to a few people on the board, exactly what I had assumed from day one. I personally didn't bring my drone. I didn't have time, even if I had brought the drone. Fort Gordon is not about allowing any kind of drone action. When I was here a month ago, I kind of lightly brought it up, but I pretty much assumed my answer. Not that I know, I'm certainly not skilled enough to be traversing through some of the areas out here anyway. Wow. But Fort Gordon, due to being a base, did not have any drone previews available. I just confirmed that no one had those available. But then out here at the IDGC, I'm not sure who does or does not have drone footage or previews. I don't know if it's Central Coast or Jomez. I'm not sure, honestly. But I know I would not attempt to drive.
Really?
No.
Out here?
No.
Here's the way I kind of...
Me personally.
Here's the way I kind
they can, because they're good at it. I'm saying, thanks to JL or whomever, I'm not about to take the Mavic that... no, I'm not skilled enough. I don't trust myself yet.
I was kind of surprised, because when I showed up to this course, and I didn't get a chance to see it on Wednesday, I expected tighter fairways. I thought they were long and tight. That's not the case. I kind of mentioned this to Val when I saw them. I said, this is a big course.
Did you see hole 17?
I did not see the last... okay. I'm sorry, I did not see the last 3 or 4 holes of the course. But for the most part, I expected more holes to be tight. Really what this is it's a heavily wooded course, but you've got some pretty wide fairways. And the key to this course, from what I saw, was really placement golf. You had to, your first throw, had to stay in the fairway. And that was really the difficult part, because when you're trying to throw on some of these par 4s and par 5s, you're trying to get 300-400 feet down a fairway. Where your disc ends, it's hard to throw a disc that hard and not have it hyzer off at the end. So the key is to hit your line and try to still stay in the fairway. Because if you get off the fairway, you still have 200 to 300 feet to go. And if you're throwing a forehand, or you have to pull some sort of patent pending move to get out, it makes it real difficult to get up to that basket. But thinking when I thought of this course, I expected long holes like we have, but squeezed in, almost maybe just a little bigger than what we're used to seeing up at like Northwoods. But no, you have pretty wide fairways. It's just that the distance you need to go.
Okay, well, when I think of the fairways out here, I think of hole 17. I think of the very tight fairway that you find on 15. Again, I understand what you're saying about hitting certain landing zones and being able to drive to a certain distance. You think about hole 1 out here. You think about hole 10 out here. They're long, bending shots. And if you're not at least getting to that first landing zone because you don't have that 350, that 375, that 400, you're spending an extra stroke just to get around
the corner.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the holes and the lines aren't. They don't feel confining. You walk up to a hole and you think, I've got a good 40 to 50 feet of fairway, maybe even 60 feet from side to side.
Okay.
And it goes down there. I think a lot of the problem was, and this is a personal opinion that I'm not a big fan of, if you're going to have a 400 or 500 foot throw or 600 foot shot, I hate when the trees are at. You might see 2 or 3 or 4 random trees 300 feet down the fairway, 400 feet down the fairway. I don't mind them when they're closer to the pad, because if you're going to use that as a way to shape a shot, I want, there's the hole where, and I forget, I think it might be 5, the one with the bridge. Maybe that's 6. Remember you told me to go stand and get a different type of shot?
Yep.
I like that shot because you right off the tee, you need to beat a group of trees about 100 feet in front of you. So you're going to bend it to the right, a turnover, or you're going to hyzer and try to flatten one out. And then you're clear to go. But when these guys have to throw 300 or 400 feet and you get down the fairway and that one tree gets you, that kind of bothers me, thinking, another guy might throw almost an identical line, maybe be a foot off, 300 feet down the fairway, and they kiss that tree or hit it. That's what bothers me a little bit about some of the fairways. And I saw a couple of those on this course that I was thinking, does that tree need to be there? It's a fully grown, mature tree, and I'm sure there are some issues maybe taking them out. I just didn't like to see it personally. I think the course is really nice, though. I really do. And granted, I didn't see the last few holes, and I know there's 1 or 2 little bit, I think you called it the threesome. There's another name for it out here.
Turkey Gulch?
The Turkey Gulch, yes, is where there's 1 hole out there that I think is a little goofy that I wasn't a big fan of.
Well, I think that is a very highly contested or talked about area on the course. I think there's some challenges out there. It seems like there's some really mixed reviews by the players with regards to those 3 holes. All of them can be birdied, and all of them can easily, and by birdied I mean 2s, they're all 300 feet or less in that neighborhood, but they also can easily be chalked up for 4s, 5s, or if you're really struggling or get a bad kick, 6 or whatever. I think some of the players are really challenged in the sense that there's something about those holes that they don't love. Now, that is what I feel is the consensus.
Yeah.
I know there was a discussion about possibly those getting altered or somewhat changed, prior or not to Worlds. I'm not sure where obviously I know where that conversation ended with them not changing. They're here. But I know that I heard no less than a dozen people talking about them in some capacity.
The Turkey Gulch holes?
Absolutely. They are a very, very discussed set of holes. Michael Joe today, I heard Barry Schultz talking about them. Nate Doss had an opinion. Everyone has their opinion about those particular 3 holes.
I like a mixture of holes. I don't mind. People always say, we want championship caliber courses. I don't mind seeing a couple 250-foot technical
I don't think it's
shots.
the length.
You don't think it's the length?
I think it's
just the lines they have to take.
It's not even the lines. It's
from what I saw, there was one that had
the
sketchy
undulation.
line.
It's the hillside. It's the
randomness.
The somewhat, you know,
hitting near and just you might skip and you might not.
Exactly.
And you might get up and roll. I can understand that. That's tough on a player when you might throw almost an identical shot as the guy next to you. Yours gets up and rolls and his doesn't. I don't mind seeing that so much when it's on a putt. Like if you have to putt to an elevated green or a hilly green, you have a much more control of a disc being able to lay it up under the basket. But on a drive, you're leaving a lot to randomness. And I want to clear something up on the board. I like accurate, tight, long wooded holes. I don't like those random trees further down the fairway because with these holes that you saw, like hole 1 and hole 10, you need to throw it. You need to get 350 to 400 feet. And these guys are trying to fight that down the fairway and kind of make that bend when really it looks like a mid-range disc is the best shot because you want it to go straight and land in the fairway, not hyzer off or on either side. The problem is using that mid-range is going to be tough to make that bend, and a lot of the guys can't do that or won't do that. So
I hear you.
That's just my opinion.
Well, I do want to say I'm all about short, technical, wooded, and everything else. Yeah, and it has nothing to do with the fact that those holes are, necessarily their length, or as someone said, they can't be all long, wide open bombers because there's really none of those on this course to begin with.
Not on this course.
So again, I want to be very clear on that. It's the hillsides and it's the OB and it's all those other things that come into play. That's where I think the frustration comes from. It's not the fact that it's a relatively short or technical hole. I think in terms of maybe either the I don't know if it's the demands or the end result that is what sometimes frustrates the player. So I just want to be very clear on that.
And I'm going to say, and I'm not going to say it's luck, but I watched the second card quite a bit today, and you saw guys throw relatively similar shots.
Yeah.
And one guy was 7 feet inside of the woods, and the other guy was 3 feet outside of the woods, and they were within 15 feet of each other. And the guy who's 7 feet in the woods has to throw some sort of crazy roll or anhyzer shot, and those shots looked real similar. And some of it is luck, some of it is just poor disc choice, some of it is, maybe they missed their line, but these courses are difficult. You have to stay in the fairway because if you don't, you will be punished. You will lose a stroke.
All right. Well, besides raging on about that course, it seems like the rage is all about the Prodigy having drone coverage or not. And not everyone, a lot of people on the board are indicating that it is in fact some kind of cart along with a steady cam or something to give you whole previews. And Paul has messaged me, Paul Martin, I believe, has messaged me, not so privately anymore, as I just called you out, saying that they seem to have used drone footage for previews at Fort Gordon. Did they use some other equipment? Again, I'm guessing, and I haven't looked at any of it, but I'm guessing they were probably in some kind of a cart. It could be like a Gator, which I was driven around on a month ago.
Sure.
A Gator or a golf cart or something of that nature. A Jeep, who knows? Probably a Gator, though, type cart. And then there was probably some kind of steady cam equipment that was used to then give you a whole preview.
That could be.
I haven't looked at the footage myself. I haven't had time. I'm guessing that was used. I would be willing to bet a lot that it was not a drone.
A true drone, yeah.
An actual drone.
As we've mentioned a couple times, Fort Gordon, home of the NSA, military base. I don't think any of these guys wanted to mess around with breaking those rules. So
no, I'm guessing a drone would have been dismantled and or shot down or something within seconds.
It would have been target practice. So
yes.
But we'll see. We'll take a look at. Maybe we'll talk to. I talked a little bit to Marty from Prodigy, who does a lot of the filming, and his wife Carmen, who's here. They're actually doing 2-camera coverage. Okay. And so I was mistaken a couple days ago when I said 1 camera. So. They're living up to the promise that they had a couple months ago where they said, we're going to get on the ball with all these other guys and have the 2-camera coverage. And they are covering FPO. So you can probably look for that tomorrow, the full FPO coverage.
Okay. Or not. Sorry, just doing a little housekeeping here as we're moving on through. So again, it could have been walking. It could have been a million things, but I'm again guessing it was not.
Do we want to maybe have a quick discussion about the other rules
Sure.
situation that you saw this week?
All right, so here we are. I'm going to set it up slightly, and then for the most part, I think the audio will be able to play through. We'll then catch up at the end and recap it ourselves. But essentially what happens, we've got Nate Doss along with a card mate, Josh Childs. Barry Schultz was on the card as well, I recall, and forgive me, I forget, and David Wiggins, I believe, was on the card. So it was the four of them. They were playing hole 12, one of the holes found in Turkey Gulch. They were competing on that hole at the time when this happened. So we'll see what happens. You should be able to hear it for the most part, or
you'll be able to
reference
hear it.
it.
You'll be able to hear it when Nate starts talking about it, but otherwise you'll just have to watch what you see.
All right. Well, then maybe I'll talk you through the front half and then let Nate do his explanation at the end. Here it is, hole 12, earlier today, right here at the World Championships. What had happened is Josh Childs, who's putting here, he had actually gone out of bounds on his tee shot. So that is his putt for birdie.
And Nate immediately walks up and says,
Foot fault.
foot fault.
And Josh is like, okay, yep, exactly.
I
think he said something like, if I didn't, I was going to spill. Or
As he's walking back right now, I believe he says, I think his term was, I was going to bust my beep, because he was struggling with the balance there. You get 1 meter relief in, and so at that point he's warned, and he has to re-putt.
There you go.
And he makes it, barely.
Left side corner pocket. Nate, I believe, is the first to say nice putt.
I'm Nate Doss, and we were just watching a foot fault that happened on hole 12 here at the W.R. Jackson course during the 2017 World Championship. It's a very interesting situation. You know, Josh is he has a very difficult putting stance. He putts, he falls forward. It happened right in front of me. He knew it and I knew it. The key here is that Josh knew that he had foot faulted. And I think that that's what made it so important. You as a player need to know that the situation is that if you foot fault, you have actually cheated. While you might have not done it on purpose, you need to re-putt that. Josh collected himself. He made the putt. We moved on. And we actually did a little high five after the end, and he said, "I knew I did it," and I did too. So really, as a player, call it when you know it's right. And as a player who's being called, understand that it wasn't on purpose. It might have been a mistake. Move on to the next shot, and everything should be just fine. So it's a learning process here. We learned something really cool here at the 2017 PDGA Pro World Championship.
Explained for us, he said, here we were on hole 12. It was a foot fault. I called it on him. I know the rules. Josh knew the rules, and Josh had immediately admitted that he knew he had foot faulted. Anytime a foot fault is called, now there's no audio for us.
No, there was a split second of no audio. All I said is that, sorry, Austin Turner's video got put underneath of that somehow, so you were hearing some of Austin's stuff.
So he had said that there were, that everyone knew that it was a foot fault. Nate was the first to call it. And at that point, Josh knew it, Nate knew it. From there, Josh has to re-putt. Now, whether he had made it or missed it, Josh has to re-putt. Anytime there's a foot fault called of that nature, you must rethrow. Whether you make or miss it, it doesn't matter. Now, in this case, Josh had made the first putt. He ultimately has to re-putt. Now, he has just received a warning, okay? So really, for lack of a better term, no harm, no foul at that point in terms of how this one happened. Now, if that exact same situation had occurred any other time in the remainder of that round, where maybe on another hole the exact same thing went down, he would have been again called, and at that point he would have had to re-putt, but he would have also been automatically assessed a one-throw penalty. The first time that you foot fault for that violation, it is just a warning. So again, no additional penalties incurred, but you always have to re-putt. And I think that's a really common misconception out there, is that you don't necessarily have to on the first one because it's just a warning. You still have to re-throw when it's called on you, even if it is just your first one and it's a warning. So,
and as we said, that's how it should be handled. That's how one pro should handle it to another pro. Don't be afraid to call on a foot fault. And if you're called on a foot fault, don't be offended. Just say, oh, my bad. Let me try that again. 99.9% of the time, the pros those guys aren't out trying to work each other.
Certainly not.
It's a matter of respectability. It's a matter of honesty. And these guys all want to play, I'll say all in the quotes, all want to play by the rules, and they all want to do their best. And they want the integrity of the game to be upheld and foremost in their minds.
Yeah, so I'll admit, again, I was filming that, obviously, and I'm watching it, and the second his left foot fell forward, I'm thinking in my head, that's a foot fault. That's totally a foot fault.
Yep.
And Nate was on it, and I do firmly believe if Nate had not called it, I think one of the other two card mates likely would have called it. I could have blurted it out. No, I wasn't going to blurt out, but it was called, and as Nate explained, it was mutually accepted. They were all playing by the rules, and it clearly it wasn't intentional.
No.
Sometimes I feel like some stance violations, not that they're ever intentional, but I think they're more likely to happen in certain situations. There, it was truly a result of balance. He just flat out was saying, I moved forward because
I was going to fall.
I was standing in an awkward position.
Yeah.
And so there was certainly no advantage he was trying to gain.
And
maybe that's the best way to word that.
If I'm correct, he's not even allowed to call himself on a foot fault anymore. Is that correct?
That was part of the discussion, that we've had recently, is that he is not eligible. And to bring that further, one might say, and the reason why he isn't eligible to do it at this point, the old rule allowed you to do such. So if somebody wanted to truly try to circumvent the rules, had he missed that putt and then fallen forward, he could then say, oh, foot fault, and called it on himself. And then for the first infraction, he would in fact just gotten the warning, and he would have got a chance to re-putt, possibly gaining an advantage. Well, he is no longer allowed to call that on himself.
Correct.
That was a rule that was changed recently. Therefore, it was called by someone else in the group. And I firmly believe, knowing the sportsman that Nate is and a lot of our top pros, had he missed that putt, Nate would have called the foot fault just the same.
It was
because
so
it was
fast.
so blatant.
It was blatant and it was so fast. Nate is, we've had Nate on the show quite a bit. Nate's a friend of ours. He's a honest and he's such a good guy that I would never think he would do anything other than what's right.
Yeah, and that's a question that's going on the board as to if someone did miss it, do you still call them on the foot fault? Dylan says you don't have to say anything. You should. Yeah. You are not following the rules at that point. Yeah. If you see someone foot faulting, regardless of the outcome, you really should. And someone could say, well, someone slipped off the tee and they shanked it all the way down the hill. That's punishment enough. No, you really should call them on a foot fault in that case too. You should apply the rules, whether it's going to be advantageous to the player or not. You should apply them universally, and consistently. All right?
Exactly.
And that's what A-Ray is saying on the board. You should make a decision on foot fault before you know if it's made or missed. Need to call it immediately. You should be calling it regardless of the outcome. So again, though, you only get one freebie, and that's the kicker there. If you do foot fault, that first one's free. After that, regardless if you make or miss it, you're going to get assessed a penalty stroke every single time. So you don't really want to get in the habit of foot faulting, just in case I miss. All right.
Jeez.
Integrity of the game, that's a good way to put it, most definitely. So thank you to Nate for doing that. What I thought was awesome, and one of the reasons why I brought it up with Nate after the fact, everything was good. Those guys, there was no malicious follow-through after that. No. There was no bad blood. There was high fives. They were both giving each other props throughout the rest of the round. Like, one would say, well, I wouldn't do that. It could be awkward. I'm not trying to get into anyone else's business or mess with their head. Well, there was an infraction. It was called. They immediately put it behind them. and they were certainly good throughout the round. Josh is a professional. Nate's a professional. That's why this is a learning lesson.
I mean, Nate's just he's a stickler, man.
Yeah.
That's his new nickname, the stickler. So
Yeah.
I would watch out. You know, I would not want to be on a card with Nate and Jordan Castro.
Oh my gosh.
Really,
Those darn rules guys.
rules followers. So
Yes. So very, very interesting to see, and that's why we broke it out for you. So hope you guys enjoyed that. I think I stirred up a little controversy, though, today, or maybe a little alarm, because immediately those two things happened within about 10 minutes of each other. I had gone out on the course, and I found the action. Both the Lance Brown situation and the Nate Doss and Josh Child situation both happened within a few minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And that's why I had said, I think I sent a tweet saying, two unique rule situations out on the course today, and everybody was wondering what in the world was going on.
You sent out that tweet about how I saw these, and we'll talk about it on the podcast
Such
tonight.
a tease.
And I was sitting here at hole 10, which is right next to the IDGC, and I had two different PDGA guys that were sitting up here come up to me like, what's Terry talking about? What's this rules thing? What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen him in like 2 hours. I've been out collecting footage and this and that. I said, if I run into him, I'll let you know. I walked down the fairway to go watch the FPO tee off. Michael Downs is down there. Michael's like, what's going on with Terry? Like, what are these rules? I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's clearly, if you guys don't know about it, it's clearly not bad enough that you need to worry about it. I said, it's probably something like a stance violation or a relief issue, something like that, because that's what a majority of our little rules calls tend to be.
Yeah, well, it was, that's what went down. It wasn't quite as dramatic. Again, both handled very professionally, and I thought they were both great little learning lessons and tips here at the World Championships. All right, someone's asking about the rules and clarifications. By all means, here's what I'll say. Go out to pdga.com/rules. Everything's right there. If you want to buy a rule book that fits nicely and is bounded together, I believe they're about $3 if you go out to a PDGA store. Otherwise, you can go out there and they're completely free.
There's a good tip that I have. I know not everybody carries a rule book, and they should. Download the PDF, the rule book PDF, and even the competition manual on your phone. Have it. Almost every player keeps their phone on them. I couldn't count the number of times I saw players either checking Facebook today or checking scores. If you just have a copy on your phone, you can always reference it just in case you need it. So sometimes those paper copies, you might go through a tough round with a rainstorm and they're going to get all torn up or wrinkly or whatever. If you keep it on your phone, it's there in pristine health and is real easy to replace whenever you want to. At the beginning of the year, just download a new one.
There you go. Perfect. Someone else, I don't know what the question is. Maybe it's over the clothing out at the course. This is a PDGA major, which for one means that there is no smoking, tobacco products, but also all players are required to be wearing either a collared shirt or one made of dry fit material. It can be a tee, so to speak, but it has to be made of dry fit material. There's a few other dress code details that are out there, but generally speaking, that the most applicable one is that you need to be wearing either a dry fit shirt that can be without collar, or you need to be wearing a collared shirt. I don't know that we've seen any of those issues or problems. That's no longer a big deal. We frequently, I think when those rules were first applied many years ago, I think back to around 2006-ish or so, then they were maybe a little bit more questionable, but dry fit's pretty much all the rage these days.
Someone asked, is there a time limit to look up rules? I think there's a time limit as far as your play, as you know, your 30 seconds from your tee, but if your group has some sort of rules question, I would say there's really not a time limit to look it up. As long as you don't hold up the rest of the field, try to do that in a reasonable time, but I don't believe there's anything stating in the rules about looking up the rules. So just let's keep the action flowing, though.
Yeah, well, and that's why it might be great, whether it's, like you said, digitally have a version or have an actual physical copy. And read the rule book once in a while, so you kind of think, oh yeah, I have an idea where there's a table of contents too.
I say, and that's the
there's
nice
a
thing
search feature.
That's the nice thing about the digital version is you have a search feature. So you can always, if you have a question like, I think this is under stance, and you can look up stance or anything like that. So again, keep a digital version. That's my tip to everybody this week. I know I've given that tip out, but it's been a while. So,
tuna fish, tuna fish, whatever. Tuna fish. There we go. Got it. Figured out. Stand aside and resolve. To some degree, you don't stand aside and another group can't play through.
Yeah, they can. Technically, in the PDGA rules,
who has to make that decision though?
If your group is,
I'm going to go to the PDGA rules. I want to clarify.
Yes, you can send cards through.
Who can though? That's what I was getting. That's what I was trying to clarify.
Does it have to be a PDGA official? I would assume not every group or not every tournament has PDGA officials. If it's an
every tournament should.
Correct, every tournament should. But if you're on the furthest part of the course, maybe the only tournament is the tournament director.
I would think it has to be an official because you can't delegate any sort of rules to anyone else in your division anyway.
Oh, really? You can't? Marty Gregoire is saying he thinks it might have to be an official to allow players to play through.
Order of play. I'm going to go teeing.
Well, you go ahead and look that up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
I found on 801.05 under order of play, letter E. During tournament play, no group may play through the group ahead unless the group ahead is required to stand aside in accordance with the rules or as directed by an official.
Okay. Don't all of our players take officials exams?
At this event, they do.
So technically every player is an official?
But not at a C tier.
Correct. But here, that would mean that any group could, in theory, say, I'm an official. This other group play through while we wait for maybe a higher authority to if there is such an issue where your group is divided and they cannot come to a consensus. So that's interesting. Maybe we'll follow up on that another couple of weeks and kind of get a general idea. But here, where every player has to pass the officials exam, technically every player is an official. So, in my thought, at an event like this, you could have a group play through based on a consensus of your group.
We'll see. All right. I'm just going to leave it there. I read the rule. I read the rule.
We've gone through this enough, I think.
What I also was just provided, thanks to our media manager, along with probably a group of tireless volunteers and or staffers. I'm guessing Big Dog Alan Sweeten, or maybe some others, or maybe not. Maybe this was extrapolated in some other way. Looks like I have some round 3 hole statistics.
I just did it in like 5 minutes, man.
Okay. Looks like media manager Marty Gregoire was providing some hole statistics. The question is, am I drawing my own? Okay, here we go. I don't have to quite draw up my own stats. He's provided them. I'm trying to look at what the best way to digest this would be. Looks like birdies. I don't know if you had to guess, or maybe some of our viewers could guess by what they saw in the live scoring today as to which hole provided the most amount of birdies on the course. I'm not just talking twos, but actual birdies on the course.
Looks like it's a tie.
I don't believe that's the case.
Nope,
there's a clear-cut winner here.
I missed the one right there.
I'll give you a clue. It's on the front 9. And I'm going to go ahead and say hole number 3. Coughed up 48 birdies today. Yes, hole number 3 coughed up 48 birdies.
Does that make it a good hole? Does that make it a hole where maybe I want to say the par is off on it, because that is a par.
That's a par 3.
It's a par 3.
There's a ton of 2s on it, 48 of them to be exact. This is from the men's the men's A pool. So there were 48 birdies out of 70 competitors. There were also, and I'm going to call out a few people that don't think it was too easy. Dustin Perry, who unfortunately took a double bogey 5. And then Charlie Goodpasture took a bogey 4, and Devin Owens took a bogey 4. So 3 people shot over par, well, 48 people shot under par, and then you do the math from there.
19 or 20.
Whatever that number is. So that's an interesting statistic worth looking at.
Patrick Paramore says hole 3, 16, and 11 look like the top birdie holes of the day.
Well, Patrick will tell you just how close you are as I move over and check out this scoring information. I'm not so good with numbers.
No.
As
We can deal with this stuff later.
Yeah. Well, I'll take a look at this, see if I can make this a little bit more useful to myself. Thank you to Marty for assembling it.
Yep.
I just have to adjust it so that I can be a little bit more insightful with it. And that may not happen in this podcast.
No, we're not. We're rarely insightful.
But what I can tell you real quickly, if I do a quick look as to the hole that gave up the least amount of birdies, it's jumping right out at me pretty easily. If anyone wants to take a quick guess as to the hole that gave out the least amount of birdies.
He's going to count backwards.
And it's not really surprising to me. I had a ton of pars. That would be hole number 14. Gave up only 9 birdies on the day. Hole number 14, just 9 birdies on the day.
I wish I would have known we were going to have this because I could have had some of the whole graphics prepared for this, so we could have shown that.
Well, either way, thank you for assembling that for us, Marty. But hole number 14 gave up 9 birdies. It is a par 4 that plays somewhat downhill. It almost feels like there's a couple of tiers to it that plays downhill. I'm unsure of the distance off the top of my head, but if you carded a 3 on it, you're doing some solid work out there today. So thank you guys so much. All right. Talking about, I'm going to take a quick look at the board. We're going to get to our one of our montages here very shortly, but seeing out on the board, looking at a conversation, understandably, kind of is focused around Ricky Wysocki. Is he on a victory lap? He's got one hole to go, or one round to go. He's got a sizable lead. He seems to be pretty focused and dialed in. He'll throw the word momentum out there. I'll do it for him. He's got the momentum, playing really solid golf. So, and I'm going to also say, if you picked Ricky to win it, I'm not going to say you're not special, but you're not alone.
There were a lot of people that came out this week and said, I'm picking someone other than Ricky and Paul because of the 4 rounds, because of the shortened event. And it just goes to show you, as we've said, it doesn't matter. The cream rises to the top. And this year, and I think I even mentioned earlier, it's now, assuming Ricky finishes this out, which I'm going to go on a limb and say he will, undeniably the best player in our game, hands down. I don't care what player rating says, whether it's 1 point or 3 points or 2 points, whatever the difference is between him and Paul, Ricky is our best player. He is the most, he seems to be the most consistent of all of our players. And Paul is a fantastic, phenomenal player. And Jeremy Colling's a great player. But Ricky right now seems to be, he seems to have that difference, that putt, that 60, that Ricky circle, that circle Ricky or whatever we're going to call it.
Yep.
He has that, and nobody can seem to touch him, at least not recently. I know Paul beat him at De La. Paul's going to beat him. Ricky's not going to win out the rest of the year. Someone will beat Ricky. Paul will win an event or 2 for sure. Ricky's going to win a few events. I bet we even see 1 or 2 other guys that step up and win some events. But I'm not going out on a limb when I say I think Ricky's the best player we have right now.
Well, tomorrow he may be doing a comment that Paul Macbeth has made is he always feels like he's a true champion once he's defended a title. And right now Ricky's on pace to do just that. We saw Paul run off 4 world championships in a row, including an epic battle that took place with Ricky back in 2014. And now, right now, it seems that Ricky's on pace to go back-to-back. And as we kind of talked about earlier in the week, on very different styles and very different courses than what we saw last year in Emporia. We saw
a lot of
more
people
open, plenty of distance, but certainly more open overall in terms of the course style. And here, we've gone tighter, we've gone wooded, par 67, par 68, long grueling days and rounds, and right now Ricky's put himself in that position.
Yeah, a lot of people said last year, for whatever reason, that they thought the courses favored Ricky last year.
Sure.
And it just goes to show you, it's not a matter of favoring any player. It's a matter of being the best player out there, and that's what Ricky is right now.
Well, what I think we can do is, I believe we could line up. We're not going to leave you hanging too much longer. I do want, before we give you tonight's montage, again, assembled by Dalton, thank you. and footage provided by Central Coast, by Johnny V and myself, but Dalton and Central Coast pulling the main weight there. Again, to clarify, I at some point will put together Ricky's round. It'll probably be the entire cards round that I'll put together. That was ultimately his second round when they played at Fort Gordon. I'll put that together. It's going to be a week or two or whatever it's going to be when that gets put out. Clearly, we're not here for post-production this week. Central Coast and Jomez and Prodigy have that all on lockdown. Yep. We were here to provide you the show, so we'll get that out for you. You're going to enjoy it, but if you're screaming at your screen, yelling, "Where's that Ricky round?" you're going to have to continue to hold your breath, because that wasn't our focus here this week. I just happened to capture one of the most amazing rounds of the week while I was out there. So here it is. Here's some great shots of the day. We got a few minutes lined up for you. Sit back, enjoy. This is round number 3. This took place at Jackson Course today. We got action from both the men and the women here at the Jackson Course.
Tom territory. Hey Nate, you said I hit. You said, hey Nate, you said I hit this tree. Oh come on. Give it to him. Oh come on.
Go.
Let's go.
Right, well, there you have it. Again, thanks to Dalton for putting that together. Thanks to CCDG. We really appreciate the collaboration and the help there. Also like to thank Ulta World. They've been out here just killing it with articles.
Yep. They got two guys out here, and the PDGA is using them for most of their articles right on the PDGA site.
Yeah, so thank you guys. Make sure you check out Ulta World. They do a ton of great stuff for disc golf. Of course, Ultimate as well, so make sure you go check them out. So I was going to say, if there's anything else before we wrap up, I was going to take a few questions if you had any. Bob Johnson, not so much a question, says hole 11 is so tough it takes a perfect touch and line. And that's exactly true, because if you go deep, you could find yourself in that OB, and then it's not like an easy OB from there, as we saw with Lance earlier in the show. It's actually a very tough OB if you get down there and all the way into the ravine. So certainly a touch shot is required. Will there be a live normal show on SmashBoxx on Tuesday night? Yes, we'll be back. More than likely have a world champion or two join us for the show on Tuesday night. FPO thoughts. I think we've kind of, I think it's fair to say, I think we both agree here, the MPO seems to be more on lockdown than the FPO. Is that a fair way to put that? Paige has a great lead. She's been playing great golf. Is Ricky's lead safer than Paige's lead is in FPO?
And I was thinking this. Our MPO, watching the FPO play these courses, a lot of people compare our scores to like what golf scores are. And the FPO match more along what your PGA type scores, where you have a couple people under par, you know, and the pars are, I don't want to say more realistic, but you see less under par for the females than you do for the MPO. Because the men, watching the women play today, you see that they have to chunk away at these courses. They can only get, like we said, halfway down a fairway or a third of the way down the fairway, when the men are getting 2/3, half to 2/3 down. The men are taking out so much more of the danger on the course on one throw. So the women, there's way more score variation to happen. So I think I would say if Paige had 12 strokes, I think it would be safe.
Okay.
But 6, there's room for a lot of movement. So I would definitely say that the FPO is still in play.
Is still more contested, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I could agree with that. I know how solid Paige is as a player. I also, of course, know how solid 4-time and reigning world champion Valerie Jenkins is. So I agree. There's it could be dynamic. Could be I don't know. Anything could shake up there.
Nice subtle plug.
Dynamically changing. There's lots of stuff that could happen out there for sure. So we, of course, wish them both the best of luck, along with all of the competitors on the women's side. Going back and reviewing a few of the quick questions. Whose card will we be walking with tomorrow? Again, we don't have a set plan. If I get footage, everyone's going to expect a round to get. But no, we're going to kind of be, again, taking in the storylines, watching it for ourselves, trying to get some highlights so we can, again, maybe have another montage tomorrow night. We don't have a specific assignment in terms of shot-by-shot round coverage because that's not what we're here for. So I may be bouncing around a little bit. I like the idea of maybe following the third card because there's already cameras on the first and second card.
I think but the problem with that, and I think tomorrow is going to be a more unique situation, we'll probably cover and walk along more with the first card. At least one of us will on the first card, get a bunch of highlights, and then also probably follow the FPO first card. I mean, both of those are really where the story is. That's where most of, I'll say, our highlights should come from. And
because really, unfortunately for them, for the most part, the second and third card in both MPO and FPO, the winners likely aren't coming from either of those cards or any of those cards. It's not it's not over, but second and third card in both situations, I'll say those have far less likely of a shot to be able to catch up. So we're going to see great golf from them, but probably not anything that's going to go after that lead. So we'll be moving around and see what's going on there. What else do we have in terms of...
Joe PG says, are we going to have a show tomorrow? Yes. Normally we don't do shows after big events like this, but we are planning on putting together a show for tomorrow. It'll probably be about the same time. We're going to see how things flow as far as Fort Gordon and getting out of there and getting the footage edited together. So you might see a little less edited footage. You might not. We're going to try to work with Dalton. We're going to try to work with us too and get this footage together and get a show to you. But we are definitely doing a show from somewhere tomorrow. We just don't know where yet.
EV Cheese asks, are we broadcasting live on the final round? Absolutely not.
I did. You did hole 18 just out of random, and I checked hole 17. Even the last two holes,
unfortunately,
are kind of miserable for cell coverage. Like, there's about a 4-hole stretch on that course where cell coverage is good. And it's unfortunately way in the beginning. It's like hole 6 through 10. And after that, it all goes downhill. So you're not probably going to see much live from anybody in general.
All right. We already discussed, yes, normal show on Tuesday, FPO thoughts. We discussed that. Who wins USDGC? Could be Ricky, could be Paul, could be Simon, Eagle, Paige Pierce. Could be any of them. Who knows? That's way off in a distance right now. Perhaps Paige and Hokum were out too late last night. Nah, they had a late tee time today. They were all good to go. Both of them had a good time out there today. Gnats were not bad at all. In fact, I don't think I had one on me today. One thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, the Gnats. I was fine with the Gnats. No Gnats. Fort Gordon is where the Gnats are.
Yeah, but I saw...
No Gnats today. I was Gnatless.
I'm calling BS on that because I watched... Val was bothered quite a bit by them. There were multiple times I watched her walk up to a putt and have to step off and swat at her ears because she kept complaining that the bugs were bothering her.
That's her.
So, agreed. I mean, and maybe it was your lack of shower.
I was going to say, maybe it's her lady smells.
You know what
Could be.
Is perfumes attract gnats.
Yeah, there you go. I don't
very
know
well
if that's
could
a
be.
problem with Val.
But I think I saw Paige a couple times complain about the bugs. Val complained about them.
I was good with them.
I didn't really have a problem. The past couple of days, I'd been wearing earphones that really weren't plugged in anything, just because at Fort Gordon the bugs were so bad they bothered me going in the ears. The buzz around them didn't matter so much, but Val had an issue with some of the bugs. So
yeah, well, I was good. The one thing I was going to say though, one thing that's really that I hope does not happen tomorrow is I was out there filming, and sometimes you're in a position where you can't move. You might be directly in line with a player who's putting or about to throw. I can't tell you how many times yesterday at Fort Gordon a gnat would go either into my nose or into my ear, and I could not move my hands to get it out of either spot, and I just simply had to. You don't know how disgusting and weird that feels, knowing there's a gnat crawling around in your ear, and I physically could not move because I was worried about causing the distraction. So that I hope to avoid somehow tomorrow. We talked about it earlier. Getting into Fort Gordon has been a breeze for every player that we've talked to thus far. Yep. We're expecting the same tomorrow. Show up, have ID, be polite, don't have anything illegal. All of those obvious things is what I'd say.
They're searching, they might search cars.
All right,
they might do some background checks.
Don't do anything illegal or have anything illegal. Don't be driving your car and then out the back window be flying your drone following you or anything like that. But you should be good to go. Arrive an hour early just to be safe, an hour earlier than you want to be out there just to be safe. But we have heard of no problems whatsoever in coming onto the military base. So it shouldn't be a problem. The Fly Mart was moved from Fort Gordon to here. It took place throughout the entire day today. There will not be a Fly Mart available out there tomorrow, so hopefully you partook today, or come in and visit the pro shop here at the IDGC. It's going to be open all day tomorrow. It'll also be open on Sunday. The mixed doubles will be taking place, so come visit here. There's some vendors that may still be set up and be available here, but the primary Fly Mart took place more so today than earlier, or than tomorrow. Do we play anymore? Not so much.
Yeah, Von Beasy asks, what do we think the hot round will be tomorrow? Do we think Ricky's going to shoot the hot round tomorrow in MPO?
No.
Okay, I agree. I don't think so.
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to. I think Ricky's going to put down probably a pretty casual 10:30 or 10:40 rated round and just keep it out of distance for everybody. He kind of made a joke he's going to play his game, and if he wins by 19 or he wins by 9 or he loses by 9, he as long as he's played his game. Now, for Ricky, like I said, a casual round for him is going to be 10:40.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see. I'm going to go and take a guess. Who's going to be the hot person tomorrow? Who's going to?
Hot round, I feel like, will come from one of the late bloomers here who are going to go down swinging, and I'm going to say it's going to be Lizotte.
Oh, that was going to be mine. It was Lizotte.
Or Macbeth.
You want to take Macbeth? I'll take Lizotte.
Sure.
And there's nothing on it, just in general. I thought it was going to be Lizotte.
Okay.
I think Lizotte has that in him where he's going to be playing to the fans a little bit. He's going to probably be a little bit more jovial, and I think he's going to really try to turn it on tomorrow. And score. So what was the hot score? It was 12 because we split last time.
Yep.
If it's a little bit rainy, I'm going to go with a hot score of probably 11 to 11. I'm going to go
11. You're going to take it back a stroke.
I'm going to take it back a stroke because of the light rain.
Fine. I'll go even further and say 10.
10. Okay.
I think 10 will be hot round.
You take 10 and under, I'll go 11 and over.
All right, fair enough. Stat on the day, someone wants to provide one. Patrick says, last stat, Paul is the only player in the top 10 who has yet to break into the 50s. Okay, fair enough. Scott Williams, I believe, is saying Austin Turner's going to have the hot round tomorrow. That wouldn't surprise me either. Emerson Biggins, I'm going to guess no. No disrespect. I'm just going to say no.
Probably.
Truth Always Wins says, I love how you type PDG into Google, and the first result is PDGA Worlds 2017. Is that a local thing to
that might be your browser if
cache or
obviously
or the Google is they're watching.
There's a whole article about that. I'm not going to get into right now. They just announced a
net neutrality.
yeah, that too. No, obviously, if you've searched that before, that probably is cached in your Google results. And unless the best way to check that is open up an incognito browser where you're not logged into, and then type in PDG and see what happens. Oh, Terry's going to do it.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the Googles.
Google.com, and Terry's going to type in.
Not Google Maps. I want to go to Google. I'm going to type in PDG.
Oh, it is. It's PDGA Worlds 2017. So I'm guessing that they have something trending that says PDGA 2017 Worlds is the hottest thing right now. So that's awesome. That's good to see.
Thanks, Alexis. That's what my guess. That's Alexis rankings, right?
Long time ago. All right. I think we've had it with Terry.
No, we haven't.
We'll hopefully get Joe on another night. He is kind of busy. He wasn't able to sit and chat with us tonight, but he did still promise us that interview. So
Well, we'll get out of him.
we will. If we have to pin him down. I mean,
Blue Boy hits on something legit. Matt Oram has never finished outside the top 10. We've talked about that. That streak may end. You were right. He was not loving it today. Yes, today. He was not loving it today. I saw him today, and he was not in the best of spirits. Serious questions. You guys get annoyed by ridiculous questions people ask on here? No, because they're usually not too ridiculous on here. Usually. They're, in general, can be ridiculous in other random places, and or ex-employees that spew stupid stuff. Yeah, sure. That can happen. Was that direct or indirect? That can happen. But in terms of here, if you're watching here, you at least can tolerate us, so you're probably not asking things that are too stupid.
What I think is kind of funny is when people tune in and we say we go live at 8 or 9 or whatever it is, and like an hour and a half in, someone comes in and like, oh, did you talk about this? And it's like, we've been on for an hour and a half. It's probably the biggest news usually is what they're asking. Did you talk about Ricky's round yet? It's like, yeah, we probably talked about it. Go back into the podcast and look. So those I get a chuckle out of a little bit. But it's not really annoying. It's just that take a look at how long we've been online, and if it's the biggest news in the game, we've probably already talked about it.
Probably got it covered. What's the funniest question someone's asked you on the podcast?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I don't know what funniest. Have you seen the new turbo putt? No, I have not. Wait, what? No, I'll move on. Incognito, you mean porn mode? No, those are different. Maybe. We'd love to see Paul, Ricky play off again. Wishful thinking. Yeah, at this point, that's wishful for Paul, for sure.
That is wishing upon a star.
So, all right, guys, I think we can go ahead and call it. It's been an amazing couple days here. We've been at the IDGC twice. Of course, we invite all PDGA members and non-members to come here. This is open to everyone to enjoy. Come check out the Steady Ed Hedrick Museum. Check out all the beautiful artwork that's plastered all over the walls. There's trophies. There's history here. There's so many things. There's an amazing pro shop that carries all of the vendors, primary vendors in disc golf. There's the Disc Golf Hall of Fame wall that's directly behind us, of course, with all the history and men and women and everyone that have been forever.
And my name's up there now.
Oh, you signed? Did you write? Did you graffiti it?
I crossed off Crazy John Brooks. I put Crazy John Van Der Zan. I hope he doesn't mind.
No, I think he's good. Crazy, we know you're watching. We hope you like that. We appreciate it.
Shout out to you, Crazy.
And we'd like to thank all our Smashies that have tuned in throughout the week. Hopefully you guys join us tomorrow night. I'm sure we're going to have footage. We're going to have interviews with some of our players and dignitaries, and it's been great to see. And again, thank you for all of you guys that are out there. Enjoy the coverage. Central Coast, Jomez, Prodigy Disc, and then along with Alta World, the PDGA, PDGA.com/2017 Pro Worlds has everything you need. Check in with the Twitters and the Facebooks tomorrow. They'll have information as well. Our tournament director, Zach. Yeah, buddy.
Killing it this week.
He's ready to sleep for a week, I think. So, for Johnny V and myself and all the staff and the crew, the amazing people here at the PDGA as well as the PDGA Worlds, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you guys tomorrow night after we have 2 freshly crowned champions here at the PDGA Pro Worlds. We'll see you next time when you step inside the Smash Box.